Alright, you guys are about to learn CapCut with me. So, last video, I was just talking about how to make animations in AI, right? So, I'm going to make a quick animation. Create project, or at least I'm going to learn how to do it in CapCut. It's pretty much, I'm guessing, similar to Premiere Pro. I haven't used Premiere Pro in like 3 years when I was actually posting a decent amount of videos back then. So this is a video. I'm guessing you can condense this down. You can slice it. I remember I can use like Alt-C to cut. I don't know if they have keyboard shortcuts in CapCut, but essentially you can go ahead and drag in another step. I guess this is a camera edit, so you can kind of go ahead and the camera would wobble, right? I don't really like that, but you can do media. You can add in another clip, the same one. It's pretty cool. It's pretty simple. I mean, I wonder what the pro version gives you. Like, what is the free version restricted by, and what is the pro version? A transcript, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, let's do this like if I was actually going to make a video, right? So we talked about the actual animation costs and all that. The first thing is going to be scripting it. So I want to go ahead and try to script a video that I've been thinking about. So in here, let's talk about how AI agents and personality and how the whole memory system, everything works. So this might be a good example of like, so when we were talking about how AI agents actually are formed, right? They're formed by their personality and their memory. Personality is essentially how they interact with you, how they talk to you. Are they, it's just like a normal person. Like, well, what's their personality? Are they calm? Are they happy? Are they always mad? Are they stoic? Are they, just weird? Whatever, quirky, right? And then their memory is just the stuff that they've been through in life and all that. So the agent is essentially the same thing. And there's different ways you can go ahead and map it for them, right? So the example I was going to use was like a chef. So imagine you have like a chef. I was going to do Asian cooking, right? It only knows how to really do Asian food. Or, I mean, I'm sure it could cook other things, but we're specializing this guy into Asian food. So he's like an Asian chef. He knows how to create sushi and like Chinese food, whatever it might be. And his personality is very stoic, very, nice, precise, deeply focused. You know how those sushi chefs are, right? They really care about their craft, so they're very like strict about it, serious about it. So, and then they cooked over 30 restaurants over 20 years, right? Every dish that they've made, every single mistake and all that stuff, that's part of their memory, right? It's not something that needs to be right here every single time that they're responding back to you, but if you do give them an example, they can recall that, right? So so now a customer asked them, make me something that's similar to orange chicken I had at a restaurant in LA where I told you I preferred a slightly sweeter sauce. Now the chef would essentially pull this from their episodic memory, right? And that would be pretty much back to their time when they were cooking in LA, their semantic memory, which what makes the sauce sweeter, and a procedural memory, how to actually cook it, right? So these are the three styles of memory that they have. So let's go into what these memories actually mean. So episodic memory, why doesn't it just, let me go into, so their episodic memory is exactly what your AI agent remembers from the last time you guys have talked, right? So I cooked for a table of 8 in Sakura in Chicago. One guest, a tall man in gray suit, told me the spicy tuna was too heavy on the sriracha. I adjusted mid-service and he called it perfect. That's the adjustment I use for Western palates now. That's episodic. It's tied to a specific time, place, and event. It's not abstract knowledge, it's logged experience. The chef didn't just learn less sriracha for Western palates. That would be semantic. They remember for a specific moment that taught them. For your AI agent, episodic memories, logs of past interactions. So you constantly interacting with it every day, eventually it learns things about you, right? Every conversation, every task. This is how Claude talks to you and gives you back little snippets of things that you've talked about in the past. Like right now, even at my work, when I use Copilot, it's like, hey, welcome Zan to a great day of being like an integrations engineer. Like it like kind of gives you like random stuff that it's learning about you throughout time or past interactions that you've talked with it. And it's like interesting to see where it's learning, right? So episodic memory, like for the example, I think this is using a different example. Workato and ServiceNow are two different tools. One is a ticketing platform. Both of them can kind of work with together as the same thing. Workato is pretty much an automation platform for enterprise. ServiceNow is a full-on solution for ticketing platform, but also creating automations and whatnot. But all of the flows and automations that you create in there can become episodic memories. Let's build a flow like you did, in that one time for that one customer where they really wanted this, right? So it kind of remembers the logs, the times, last time you guys talked about. So specific past events with their context preserved. On June 3rd, this recipe failed at step 3 because of null data pill and Workato flow. Fixed by adding a formula step, right? Each episode is converted to an embedding, a list of numbers representing meaning, and stored into a vector database. When a new query comes in, the agent finds past episodes and they're semantically similar. All 20 years of dishes made, every time the chef made salmon nigiri, who ordered it, what tweaks were made, what feedback came back, right? That is episodic memory. Let's go into semantic memory, right? Semantic memory is knowledge that's not tied to a very specific event. It's just pulling in from your knowledge base. So, sushi rice should be seasoned with rice vinegar, salt, and sugar. The ratio is 5:1:1. The rice should be body temp when served, never cold. Cold rice mutes the flavor, and that's semantic. It's not when the chef, I didn't learn this. He did learn this. It's not like a specific moment it has to be. It's just general knowledge, right? It's conceptually facts. So, to dribble a basketball, you dribble it to your, to your knee height, and then to do a crossover, you go from right and then you go under your legs to left. If you're left-handed, you go from left to under your legs to the right, or in front of you, right? Behind the legs, crossover, just a crossover in front of your body, whatever it might be, right? It's stuff that's it's semantic memory. It's things that are just general knowledge that you would know about it, right? So it's not tied to it. Oh, do that one crossover you did game 3, and that would be more like episodic memory that we were talking about, right? Again, guys, these things are stuff that I'm learning too, and it's a little they kind of work together, right? It could kind of overlap: episodic, semantic, procedural, all that kind of good stuff. The LLM already has enormous semantic memory and knows what sushi is, right? That's how Claude knows when you tell it to talk like a pirate. You didn't tell it how a pirate talks. It kind of already has the semantic memory, which is the large database that Claude has taught Opus on, that's taught Sonnet on, right? They have this private knowledge that we don't have access to, but they've trained on it, right? So Claude knows what sushi is and all that kind of good stuff. What you need to do is store semantics memory is your private specifics knowledge, LLM. So what your company does, patterns within employees, all that kind of good stuff, right? How they kind of relate to each other. That's the semantic memory. So just think about it as not being an event-specific thing, but just general knowledge. How does your company operate? We operate very efficiently. We operate by, picking up X and putting it down at Y location. It's very procedural, right? It's general knowledge. And then event-specific would be on a specific day. Hey, remember when COVID hit and then we had to transition and do all this stuff? That is more of the point of episodic memory, right? Semantic is just that. Procedural memory is muscle memory, how to do things, step-by-step patterns to make nigiri, wet your hands. So it's like the actual instructions. So over here, and I was telling you general knowledge, how to cross over to basketball, it's general knowledge. If you're doing behind the legs crossover, or let's talk about the chef example. If you're creating sushi, right? How does sushi, right here, how's sushi rice seasoned, right? It's seasoned with these things in general. This could be different. Cooking is an interesting example because it changes for everybody. But all that to say that this is more so the general idea of sushi, and this is exactly how you would do it based off of your agent, right? Your agent works this way. So your character, whatever you're building, he works in this procedural memory exactly like this one. To make nigiri, wet your hands with tezu water, and then take 20 grams of rice. That's procedural, but for somebody else, they might be like, hey, before you wet your hands, I don't know, use soap, right? Use soap first, and then clean your hands, and then wet your hands with that water, right? Or something like that. It would, the procedural steps would be tailored towards what your company does or what you do, right? It's based off of what you give it. It's not a fact, it's a repeatable sequence of actions. The chef doesn't think about it anymore, it's automatic. Here's the exact process he needs to follow. Relationship memory, the chef remembers you, that's regular table 4. This gets into the whole like graph, knowledge graph, it's a little different. So the most of the stuff that people do is the working memory, right? And then the episodic and semantic. And maybe procedural. Relationship gets a little tricky. Even semantic gets a little tricky. I think most people would just work off of episodic memory, procedural, and their working memory, right? Right now, a chef is plating a dish. Their dish is holding a bunch of things in their head simultaneously. Yeah, I take it in front of them. Table 7 wants spicy tuna. The customer mentioned a shellfish allergy. The soy sauce is getting low. The rice they made 20 minutes ago needs to be used in the next hour. That's working memory. And this all gets erased the next day, right? The next order. You don't need to remember all this the next day. Let's say you're going and cooking completely different stuff, or you're cooking at home. When you're cooking at home, you don't need to know that table 7 wants spicy tuna. That stuff is gone. The working memory, it should disappear from there, right? It doesn't need to be there anymore. It's everything that's been loading into the current prompt, the conversation so far, any skill files that get routed in, any memory retrieved from the database for this specific request. When the conversation ends, it's gone. It starts fresh. So you should remember that when you're working in a terminal for Claude Code, is that if you were going to cook, right, at a restaurant, you want to remember all these like different things, right? The chef, table 7, you need to get the order out. You know, somebody's got an allergy. Soy sauce is getting low. We need to refill it, right? We ran out of salmon, so we need to go get ordered. That is all stuff that you need to remember for that day. Now, later when you go at home, you don't need to remember all that stuff. You might, but you don't need to remember it immediately right then, right? Right now, you're focused on just chilling at home. Maybe you're making something for yourself. So in that sense, then you can